Hello, friends, and welcome back to One and All. It's great to have each of you here who has come back to join me, and I appreciate all of you. So here was, best laid plans of mice and men. Trying to put everything together, and it seems as if, some days are better days, and some days are not as good days. And yesterday was not so bad. Today started off pretty good, and then turned into not great. So I'm struggling health-wise. I probably won't be able to hang in there very long. I hate to disappoint you, and I know it's becoming a drag. Trust me, I know. Oh man, I know. We're scheduled to get some imaging done this next week, and hopefully that will lead us in the right direction. We'll get it figured out from there. In the interim, not to leave you with nothing other than noodles, did want to just kind of lay the groundwork for where this is heading. And I think really you're coming on a journey with me. You've probably realized already, as have I, that some of these streams are kind of getting all mixed together. Unintended consequences, ancient wisdom, sola scriptura, sorta scriptural. It's all confused. It's all just one. No, and in fact, I'm going to try to do just the opposite and spread things out and do some very specific things here and there. And to that end, I was putting together some of these things and trying to get some of the background for what I intend to both present and propose. And really, I don't even know if propose is the right word. Just food for thought regarding some of the things that I presented in the last few episodes about the nature of the universe and time and this idea of the fabric of the universe. Perhaps they're not kidding. Perhaps they're, again, truth in plain sight, and they sneak things in with words. And so this idea of the time warp and the warp and weft of the fabric of time, that there is some construct here, and that maybe we're looking in the wrong direction. Maybe we are sort of living in the space between. It's consistent with everything that I've been able to, if I look at things in just the right way, I think I can get it to all line up. Doesn't mean it's right. It means that maybe there's a there, or at least I have a way of looking at it that might provide some interesting perspective. And I want you to join along with me because I think that there are some related things, and some of these have to do with these things, vibrations, frequency. We talk about this a great deal. Nikola Tesla, of course, told us if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of frequency and vibration. And the 3 and the 6 and the 9. Certainly those numbers appear all over the place, as do some of the other things, golden ratio and pi, and some of these other things that appear over and over, Fibonacci sequence, etc., the inverse square law. We find these things over and over again in nature. And one of the most fascinating things to me when I was early on in my study of water, and I still have yet to present that information, again, this is partly why I think it's a good idea to begin to separate some of these streams into different platforms with specific categories of information. I think that makes sense at this point. But the fascinating thing, Victor Schauberger was the one from whom I got the phrase, observe nature and copy it, duplicate as best you can the principles that you see. And certainly he came up with a lot of great observations, especially regarding vortexes and the way water moves and the way it behaves, especially in terms of energy. When you begin to look at some of those energetic frequencies and patterns, and again, I began to see some patterns develop that seem consistent across a variety of different disciplines, and that intrigues me greatly, especially as it relates to some of these things that pay attention to electricity and magnetic phenomena, and the fact that they appear at right angles to one another, and they are interrelated phenomena. As we consider the things that they have, again, stolen from us, and part of that being the nature of the world, the ether, long accepted throughout all that we know of history and physics and philosophy, in terms of the fifth essence, the quintessence, but each of those must have a balance. And so is it possible that there is a balance, a right angle energetic frequency, if you will, to the quintessence, the luminiferous ether, that presents this sort of, I don't know if you will, etheric body, but subtle body, the spiritual aspect of the physical, the material manifest, and then the immaterial that is related, and all the manifest things that are interrelated. For example, phantom limb syndrome, whereas a person who has had a limb amputated still has sensation from time, or itching that appears from time to time in the limb, but it's no longer there. Again, as if it's the phantom self was still connected somehow. does this perhaps touch on information that comes to people through the Akashic record or through this cosmic consciousness? And is it, in fact, related to dreams? And dreams appear to be a very specific aspect. And again, one of those things that seems to have been successfully stolen from our modern society and way of life and thinking throughout most of all, again, recorded history so far as we can tell, because it is mostly, again, grappled, if you will. It's changed and altered in such a way it's very difficult to ascertain for certain what is the truth. But from what we can tell, what things do come down to us still is that dreams and visions were considered an enormously valuable part of their world. Now, of course, they're dismissed as, of course, the modern mindset would say that this is just crass superstition, and that they were so dumb as they couldn't understand the nature of the world around them. They didn't understand the laws of physics, and so they invented gods and goddesses to rule their world or aspects because they were too dumb to get it. I beg to differ, and I think just looking at the remarkable things that they left us speaks volumes about what they knew and understood in far more detail, I think, than do we and modern men. I think there are people who do still understand these things, and I think most of you here agree that there are those who belong to the dark occult magic schools, the secret societies, some of whom know these things at very high levels, but most of them do not. In fact, many of the people involved in those groups do not even realize the nature of the groups themselves. In fact, some of them probably least of all. Like many things, the higher the education, the deeper the indoctrination. And so without being near the top, they have no idea the nature of the beast in which they are literally in the belly of. And so it is with this idea that I began to consider, especially again after having a conversation, brief as it was, with a lovely young man yesterday out at Cozy's about dreams. And he just mentioned something and said, hey, I wanted to ask, have you gotten reports of people having intense dreams, more intense than usual? I'm like, well, as a matter of fact, yes, I have. Not just myself, but Mark Bloom and I have been talking at some length over the past months, back and forth. And I was hoping to have him here with me. It's one reason I'm not, another reason, I guess, I'm not going to do into it, because there's so much background here, and I want to get the right people involved in this conversation. I want to get you involved in this conversation as well, because I think many of us have had this experience. I also shared earlier, there are numerous texts in all kinds of scriptures, both the Bible and others, that speak very directly to mankind being communicated to very clearly and very effectively through dreams and visions, primarily through the nature of dreams. But what makes a difference? Is every dream valuable, or is it just anchovies on my pizza? We've been long led to believe that the brain is just downloading information and defragging the hard drive, if you will, because they keep telling us that we run just like a machine, and therefore, like a machine, we have a computer, and the computer brain is a computer, and no, it's really not. Probably couldn't be further from the truth. David Reif, who you see in chat, a lovely friend of mine, sent an amazing story of dreams and dreams connecting with the real world, IRL. And those become some of the craziest things. And how do we explain this? There have been numerous tales of people who have come up with inventions or solved problems through a dream. One of the ones I remember quite clearly is, I can't remember the name of the guy, but he was trying to create a sewing machine, and he couldn't quite figure out how to do it and how to do the needles. And it was in a dream that he was, again, I guess appropriate to the time, he was on an island, like a desert island, with these headhunters, right, cannibals. And they had him surrounded, and they were going to put him in the pot, just like you see in the, the trope, the whole trope of the cannibals and the guy in the pot. But they had these spears, and on the spears they had a hole in the tip, an eyelet in the tip of the spear. And he woke and immediately knew that solved his problem of where to put the hole. Because you see, in a standard hand sewing needle, the eyelet is at the back, and you pull the whole thing through. This was not working for a mechanical system, but by putting the eyelet at the tip, it just only had to go very shallow through the textile, and it can go back and forth at a high rate of speed and do what was necessary. And so he solved the problem seemingly given to him in a dream. He's not the only one. It's been happening over and over, and I have my own experiences. And in fact, this is again leads to a number of conversations. It only occurred. I had planned to talk about dreams specifically during this episode, and again, it's going to be somewhat foreshortened just because again I'm not really well today, and I apologize so profusely. And it's not. I'm not asking anybody to feel sorry for me. I do again so much appreciate your prayers and your kind thoughts and words, and we're hoping to get it cleared up soon. Just it's a drag and it's a drain on me as well. But I'm hanging in there. I'm just too stubborn to give up, apparently. Anyway, so I wanted to get you guys thinking about this, but as I was thinking about it, it occurred to me that I do have some very direct relationship with some very intense, very profound dream things. And a couple of stories I've even told to Ceiling Fan Man. And very few people I've told in my life. In fact, I didn't tell anybody for the longest time. And then only, as I began to embrace the more weird stuff, that I am weird latter half of my life. It's been okay to talk more about the woo stuff. It's just part of me. It's right. These are just experiences I've had. I can't apologize for them. I'm not trying to make more of them than they are. It's just things that happened to me, and it helped shape who I am and how I relate to the world around me. And part of that world is the unseen world, and it's been a very active part of my life throughout my life. Again, it's been a part that I don't often speak about because people often get very uncomfortable, especially throughout my life. Less so now. It's becoming a kind of, I guess, more accepted part. And unfortunately, there are people who I think, again, I don't know, try to sell it or make more of it than it is, and they try to sell themselves as like a super woo. No, that's not my thing. I was always sort of ashamed or embarrassed of it. I learned very early on that people get very uncomfortable with anything like that. So just you learn to keep it to yourself, especially if you want to have friends, And so I developed a lot of coping mechanisms, right? Learned a lot of jokes, telling jokes, that sort of stuff, because people are uncomfortable when they're being observed, especially kind of read, right? If you can kind of read their mail a little bit, or if you're kind of empathic, it really makes them uncomfortable, especially if they don't trust you or they don't know you. And of course, I'm always curious, and it was never with ill intent, or I say never, mostly. There was a time in my life where I was not. Oh dear, I was not a great person for short periods of time. Not because I meant to be a dick, other than I guess there was a very short period of time where I was like, hey man, guys who are assholes, they get all the love, they get all the breaks. And hey, I could do that. And no, I couldn't. I couldn't do it. It just hurt my spirit. I just couldn't be that guy. The other thing, so there are a couple of things I wanted to just, again, get in your mind to start thinking about, because I'm going to carry on these conversations when I'm feeling a little bit better, and I want you to be part of the conversation. This is not, I don't want to just be talking at you. I want this to be kind of a tribal, conference, if you will, because there's so much going on here. One of the things to be aware of, right, is that nobody really knows what dreams are. Nobody really knows what consciousness is, honestly. They'll tell you that they know everything about everything, right? And science has all the answers, and they know to the inch how far away the moon is and the sun and all the other luminaries, and that's poppycock. That what they're telling you is a lie. And the more in fact you dig in deep, the deeper you look, the more you realize they don't really know much of anything. I mean, it's a big house of cards, and the things that they do know are so badly mangled and forced into fitting some just crazy theories that they have, that it just doesn't work. Part of this is that coming back to this idea and the questions, and I had mentioned before, I couldn't remember quite who it was. It was Dark Glasses Woody, who had brought up this idea of, hey, what's about why do you doubt granularity? And he presented some of his ideas, which are fascinating. Not quite the same as mine, but fascinating. And again, I can't say whether either is right or wrong, but certainly we both doubt the mainstream narrative, and for good reason. And again, although, and here's was one of the challenges I had early on with chemistry and the periodic table and stuff, is that it works, right? It actually works. The Avogadro's number, when you do mathematics, and you do chemistry, you can predict. You can do all kinds of predictions. You know what's going to happen. You can mathematically predict what is going to happen when you combine particular chemical elements, and you can do material sciences, and if you use catalysts and certain things. And again, this is primarily based on the SP and DF suborbitals, the quanta, right? The quantum physics, that's the quanta, the jump between them, and how many electrons are free. And so then, but you could do the same thing again with, as I considered it, you could do the same thing with frequencies, right? And so once you create a certain frequency threshold, if you take a look at the, and one of the things I was considering this, right, is how this stuff could work. One of the things when you take a look at the cymatics in action, and let's, maybe, I was going to show a photograph, but maybe I should show you because it makes more sense when you're seeing it in motion. On the cymatics. So let me put this image up while I try to find a video of that. All right, so when cymatics begin to appear, what happens is they kind of are in indistinct form in between, and then they come into a form, right? They come develop into these. Let me switch here. Stand by. One moment, please. Here we go. So they take on these beautiful patterns when certain frequencies are introduced to media. If you're unfamiliar with the term cymatics, cymatics is a term that was coined by Dr. Hans Jenny, who was fascinated by earlier. These things was discovered by Clandy, Chandley. You can, for a variety of ways you could pronounce it. An Italian physicist from the 17th century who discovered that by running a violin bow across a metal plate, if there was sand on the plate, it would vibrate, the plate would begin to vibrate, and the sand would take on specific patterns and cohesive patterns. And it would vary based on the frequency. And so he called these are now called Clandy figures. He drew out these patterns, and they would take on very specific shapes. In the 1950s and 1960s, Dr. Hans Jenny took this a bit further and started to introduce sound into a variety of different media, not just sand, but water, gels, a variety of things, even plasmas, and came up with some fascinating things. One of the discoveries is that in two languages, Sanskrit and Hebrew, the sound made is creates the phoneme drawing of the of the vowel. It's crazy. So he called them the sacred languages. Also, he discovered that some of the fundamental frequencies. Okay, so and I have to find these. I don't know. I used to have all this stuff on hard drives, and of course those are long gone now. But I had all this data in presentations. It was fascinating, and that there was these buildings in India, these temples in India. That of course way old. Who knows? Mud flood. Who knows what the fuck is going on, right? But they have these mandalas on them, and these mandalas have these shapes, right? They look just like these guys, and they represented a tone, a series of tones, and nobody really realized this until they started to do these patterns, and then realizing that these buildings were showing these tones, and also those tones were related to the fundamental frequencies of the harmonics of the building. What the fuck? And I think that is the same with these rose glass windows in the cathedrals, the Gothic cathedrals. It's related to the fundamental frequency of the building itself. And if they sit on an energetic ley line, we can see where we're going with this. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's built into the world around us that we don't even know. All right. So one of the fascinating things about this is that when these frequencies begin to take on a cohesive pattern, it's in a state of incoherence, and then all of a sudden it suddenly forms. And then the frequencies change, and then it reaches another frequency, and then it snaps into the next pattern. Well, it's exactly what we would see. It's a one-to-one analogy. Isn't it gorgeous? Aren't these gorgeous images? This is the visible sound. It's modal phenomena, and this is what I believe really is the basic of the nature of our universe, that the ether, when it vibrates at particular frequencies and at particular patterns, becomes material. It becomes matter. A desk, metal, crystals, it becomes matter. And when the Creator breathes into it the breath of life, it becomes life. But matter, even inorganic matter, is all energy. I just think it's energy. But then again, as I was demonstrating before, talking about this thing on this quadrupolar pattern, right? In the same way that magnetism and electricity are at right angles to one another, right? So you have this thing going. Whoops. This thing going. Oh, I see. Well, I'll just have to do this again, I suppose. I want to get the whiteboard. Oh, okay. So then you've got this axis through here, right? So it would be running this way. So you've got the one going that way, and you've got one this way. And so that's kind of the thing that I'm on right now. Right, these energetic patterns, but these represent material and immaterial and the connection between the spiritual and the physical. It is actually a connection, and that we're all connected because we all exist in this same, I don't know, soup, if you will, of etheric soup. And so it is all connected. And this is exactly the same way that divination works. I've often proposed that divination works by essentially feeling these vibrations, right? Using something to feel the vibrations from the other pattern. But this idea, again, that it may have some relationship to do with an actual fabric. Again, keeping in mind, again, the fabric of our lives, the weaving together, right, of the story, the tales that we tell. We're teasing apart a story, time warp, right? We're blanketed in snow, enveloped, right? There's this language that's kind of in there, right? That it's just fascinating. It's fascinating, the fabric of space-time. So I want to get you thinking along these lines and in these terms, and remembering your experiences with dreams, because I've had some pretty crazy ones. And so I thought about an hour ago, just prior, it hadn't occurred to me at all, but suddenly, yeah, exactly, a tapestry, exactly. These ideas are present, right? And even in these tropes appear in movies. Was it Assassin or whatever? The idea that there was this cloth, right, and they were getting their assassin notes through these knots in this cloth or whatever. Numerous books that presented the idea that history, the fabric of the universe, is actually a fabric that's being woven somehow, either magically or mechanically. It's not a new idea. So the fact that it's not a new idea, again, to me gives it some sense of validity, at least a there, right? Some smoke and fire. To press a little harder on this idea. In fact, I mean, we're told that the definition of gravity currently is an unequal distribution of space-time, right, due to mass, but the fabric of space-time being bent. So a warp of space-time. Keep in mind, again, fabric, textiles, warp, weft. Those are the terms. So it's a fascinating thing. And so I want to get you guys thinking about that, and to think about and consider dreams. Again, in most cultures before us, dreams were considered of immense importance. It could change the fate of nations, literally, the outcome of dreams. And, you're familiar with the term dream time. It's a fascinating thing. Even the idea that has been presented that, right, that we really exist in the dream state, and the time that we're awake is kind of the dream. Fascinating ideas. And that dreams become manifest. And again, I've had some interesting stories, and so this is another thing that I thought I would do is I have a number of stories to tell that people have asked over the years. My relationship with Dad, specific instances of direct contact for what it's worth, and that sort of thing. And these are the kind of things that I was always have always been very hesitant to talk about for a variety of reasons. One, because it's private. It's it's my life. Two, because people have their own reasons usually for both asking and telling such stories, right? And they're usually just not good reasons. But you guys are my family, and I have come to trust more of you. So I've decided to do it in the forum of Rockfin Premium. And again, I'm not trying to cut anybody out, and feel like it's germane and important to you, but I just felt like it's something I could share more comfortably in that forum. So probably we'll do a story time, right, over there of some of these instances, right, and why why some of these dream things are really important to me, and some of the experiences I've had that give me particular maybe insights differently, and how they might relate to you, because I want to hear your stories too. And I think, again, this is in part what I had in mind all the time, is that we would share your stories as well and try to put these things together, like what is going on. And I think, and it feels to me like we're getting closer and closer, not only to the physics and the mechanics of it, but also to the grasping of it. I think the mechanics of it, in some ways, my take on it is that it all continues to point back to the Creator, right? It's important in the context of it. Shows us a good deal about who the Creator is and where we are and who we are. But ultimately, knowing the nature of the universe doesn't make us better people. It doesn't help us win the spiritual war, right? That's my take on it. Is that as fascinating it is, it's the glory of God to hide a thing, and the glory of kings to seek it out. So yeah, delightful and good on us for being curious and wanting to know about the nature of the world. But again, ultimately, what things are of greatest value? Will it lead us closer to the kingdom? Will it bring us closer to relationship with our Creator? And will it help us succeed in this spiritual battle that we're in? And to that end, that's my greatest interest, is not only, I think this, again, from my perspective, the spiritual battle is already won. The biggest challenge is ensuring that I'm on the right side of the battlefield at the end of the day, right? That I know the outcome ultimately of the battle. That my responsibility is making sure that I'm on the right part of the battlefield and the right side when this is all said and done. And then ultimately, if possible, to help as many as I can do the same. If that is, and to encourage and to assist in any way that I can those who would do the same. All right, and there we go. That's what I have for you today, guys. Again, I apologize that it's somewhat foreshortened. It's not what I had in mind. I had a much longer thing in mind, but I think it's stuff that I've kind of socked away. And if I do a bit more research and do the visuals a little bit better, I think it will actually have more meaning, and then I can put that in a form that maybe will make more sense. And I also, again, like to have some guests. I'd also like to hear your stories, dreams, and your thoughts on dreams and what we're dealing with here. There's a vast amount of information, and again, I didn't know quite how to filter through it. I want to have some conversations with some folks. But I do want to say again that you guys are just fabulous, right? The reason that I'm here all day in, day out, well, not every day, but you're the reason I continue to do this. I was thinking earlier, right? I never wanted to get stale and boring, and then if I didn't have anything new or interesting to say, I'd just hang it up and we'd do something, I'd pursue something else. But for the time being, it does seem to be of some small assistance to people, and so I'm pleased to know that. It's helpful to me if you tell me that this has been of value and a benefit to you. One of the things of late that has been, interestingly, of help to people seemingly is the tuning forks. And it has been to me as well. So I'll continue to do that, again, until people say, stop it. So if you don't mind, I'll give you a little warning here. Prepare yourself. We'll introduce some of this. I'm going to add some intentions as well. I will wrap ultimately with a prayer and then some outro music, as I usually do. I intend to be back for not only Poppycock Report on Wednesday. I think we'll do it Wednesday. But the lovely and talented Roaster 777 has asked me to show up for some random stream at some point as soon as I'm able. And so as soon as I'm feeling up to it and I have some time off work, hopefully between now and Wednesday, we're just going to randomly stream. So keep your eyes open for that. And I'm excited to see what she has in mind there, because it's always a gas. She's just, I love that critter. She's amazing. All right, so coming in just a moment, we're going to do a little tune-up. That's right. And it has been, as I said, a remarkable benefit to me. And it is very difficult to describe, I'll say that. It is hard to say exactly. I mean, I can sort of describe the feeling, but in terms of the result, it's very difficult. One of the things I do know from what I read is that the benefits improve as you do it over time. So if we do it pretty much every day, we'd improve. So I'm considering doing just a brief, like 10-minute session early in the mornings or something like that you can pick up at any time throughout the day, because that seems to be the way that it is required to do that. So considering doing that as well. Anything that helps the group, right? So, all right. And so we're going to do some positive intentions here. I'm going for healing. And healing in physical, emotional, spiritual. That all the wounded places are touched deeply, and healing for you. If you're wondering, in the background, there's a bit of a storm going on in the background. So, yes, Allison, that'd be great. I would love to do like a group thing, specific time during the day. I'm going to do a dual fork thing now. Hopefully this works out. I've noticed some success with this. It's very interesting when I get it going just right. So hopefully I can get this. It's difficult to do, but I'll try to make it work. Here we go. Oops. All right, one more time. All right. Wow. Dreamy. It really is. It's just, I cannot say, again, the effect specifically it has on you. For me, it almost instantly, now, maybe a bit of a Pavlovian response, but it almost instantly puts me into that, like, really quickly meditative state. It is very nice, and it's a very positive thing as well. All right. With that, again, I want to thank you so much for coming. I can feel the the tightness in the stomach, and the sweat begin to flow, and so I know it's time. Again, my apologies. Hopefully, we'll have this cleared up soon. I'm always jealous for your good intentions and your prayers as well. But for now, Dad, thank you so much for bringing just the right people here and for this beautiful family that's around us. Thank you for the care that we have for one another, and the love that you have implanted in our hearts and you've seeded in us, and that you continue to water, and you send the radiant sun to have us grow. Thank you so much for your love, for the opportunity to share it. Leave you with the streams in the desert, and we'll think about more about those dreams. We'll talk more about it. Anyway, thanks so much, guys.
Starlight slip away. Trust the light. Pray for dawn. In the morning, see the sun. I cross the down the sand till you hear them call your name. I cross the desert to find the well was dry. I close my eyes, found a river inside that flows to the end of time. Close